Ed McGuire, Public Works Director, MCGUIRE.
Okay. So, Sunridge Heights Parkway. Some people are nicknaming this the road, the nowhere right now. Now, how many years has it been a dream of the city to finally connect this road and get it over to Costco from Maryland Parkway, for example?
Great question, Ken. We started long before Costco was constructed. I don't know how many years ago this was put on the Master Transportation Plan, but we've been working with McCarran Department of Aviation for 5.5 years or so on acquiring some right-of-way.
So where are we at right now with acquiring the right-of-way? I'm like looking at your map, and it looks like there's 2 key pieces of land that you guys need in order to punch this road through between Raiders Way, aka Executive Airport, and Maryland Parkway. Where are we at right now? You guys making good progress?
We are. We have been working with the airport for a long time. The airport has a plan to expand taxiway and apron. And so as part of that, we've been coordinating with their land use plan, and a new driveway, I think it'll be called Jetstream Drive, will connect to Sunridge Heights. And over time, they've agreed to dedicate some right-of-way, and we're basically trading the value. They acquired that property with federal aviation dollars. And so they can't just give it away, but we're trading the value of some roadway improvements for the value of the right-of-way. And we're really close on their land use and our improvement plans.
So with the airport, I guess, is it true that they are talking about eventually expanding the runway to make it bigger to handle bigger jets?
That's a good question. That's really a question for Department of Aviation. They have published a master plan. They are working their way through a master plan for a future plan, if you will. And there is talk that with the growth of the airport and the use of the airport, they may extend the runway someday, but I'm not exactly sure where they're going to land on that. They have some design alternatives and that sort of thing.
So with that being said, and a roadway going across that far end of the roadway, which is, I guess, a protective zone, if you will, for any planes that overshoot, does that mean that the roadway is literally going to have to be tunneled, or what do you guys, is it going to be like the airport connector?
Very real possibility. Right now, the extension of Sunridge Heights crosses the aviation property, and the runway protected zone overlaps at the corner near Costco, if you will. So we're looking at building the road at grade and then putting walls adjacent to it so that that could be covered. And then if they fill to extend the runway, the ground is sloping to the north and the runway obviously is level. As that is filled in, that would become an underground roadway.
Now, would the tunnel be big enough where you guys would have to do things like emergency exits and ventilation, or is it small enough that it would just be kind of more of a basic tunnel? Do you know that?
Depending on the configuration, I hope it's short enough that it would just be a tunnel, and it would be naturally ventilated with automobile traffic moving through it. But depending on the length, we've hired a consultant to look at that, depending on the final configuration. It's pretty premature to guess how long it will be and whether it needs forced air ventilation and emergency exits, but that's part of the equation for the future.
Now, would you explain to people why there's like this road is built piecemeal? You got a piece here, you got a piece here, and a piece here. Maybe explain to them, why you guys are doing that. Like, basically, you're, from what I would understand, you're just trying to do everything you can up to this point.
Correct. We started out with a plan for Sunridge Heights, quickly turned into 2 plans, and then 3 plans, and then 4 plans. So, we're building the pieces that we have rights to. So the first piece we acquired was from Levi's. Levi's had dedicated their half street many years ago. So we built to the limits of Levi's last year. And then Matter project to the west. We made a deal with Matter. They dedicated right away. They built all the utilities and the sidewalk and the street lights, and we did the pavement section. So we had money for Sunridge Heights for the typical regional transportation funded section, the travel lane. So we got a piece to the west and we got a piece to the east, and then we're working with the airport on the next 2 segments, and then Costco in the middle of that shopping center where the Costco's built, they built their little piece as well. So we have something to connect to, and we'll have an intersection there behind Costco hopefully soon.
So as of right now, obviously you guys can't do anything until the airport signs off of it, and I guess even the FAA beyond that, is that correct?
Correct. For anything that involves a tunnel or future runway protected zone, yes, that would have to be approved by the FAA as well.
And this might be a bit of a stretch, and you may not know the answer, but do you have any timeline potentially when maybe construction will begin, you get all the approvals? I mean, what's the city's hope, I guess, at least?
This section is designed, or the next section to the east is designed, if you will. We'd be ready to put this out to bid within months if all the documents were signed. So it won't be years for the next segment. The second segment further east that potentially has a tunnel, that'll be a little more involved design, and that'll be a lot more coordination with future airport and future runway.
So are we looking at possibly another 2, 3, 4 years down the road, or is that just, kind of speculatory on your part?
That is. I couldn't even guess as far as the runway configurations and the future of the airport. And I suggest you take a look at their master plan documents. There's, I think, a 20-year horizon, similar to highway documents. You look to provide great service for the next 20 years, so there's some recommendations, and some sooner and later recommendations that are alluded to. So,
what would be what's the city's hope and goal? I mean, to potentially break ground on some of on this project to eventually connect the road. Like, I mean, what would be your dream, if you will, to potentially break ground within the next year or two? What are your thoughts on that?
For the second section to the east?
The whole thing. So
the first section will be inside of a year. I'm pretty confident. We'll be under construction inside of a year, I believe. And the second section, that's a good question. I think it hinges on the selected alternatives for the airport, and then the level of design it takes to accommodate that, since we'll be crossing their property.
And in the meantime, the folks at Costco, the shoppers, what do you say to them? They're clamoring for this road.
Hey.
I mean, do you have any suggestions for them in the meantime?
Be patient and friendly. It's Be Kind Month, Ken. Wave to everyone and smile. You can't tell I'm smiling right now. November is Be Kind Month.
So basically, be patient. Basically, your message is be patient. The city is trying to work on this as best they can, dealing with all the other public entities involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any other thoughts that you have here? I mean, Public Works Director, on your vision for this future project?
We've been working on additional routes in this area for years. For a long time, basically Eastern Avenue was the route to get to Seven Hills and Anthem and Madeira Canyon, and you can now go through Inspirada. You can go to the west. This helps relieve some of that traffic to be able to turn out of Seven Hills and not have to go north on Eastern. So providing those additional routes is our goal here. And
are there any other plans for any other potential routes in this area that you guys have under consideration right now or under construction?
Well, just to the south, we have Via Nobila that just started construction, 2.5-mile roadway. It's a $37 million project all the way to Las Vegas Boulevard, and a potential interchange at Via Nobila and I-15. So that's a big priority for us working on that. We're signing an agreement with NDOT to put together pre-design for that interchange as well. So ultimately, another east-west route that will take you out to the interstate.
And that's obviously very important as that area continues to grow, to try to kind of relieve some of the congestion on Eastern Avenue, I would assume.
Absolutely. And then to Via Nobila starts, if you will, at Haas Automation. So we would have really a truck route for Haas to get right to the interstate directly west from the business. So as the businesses grow in West Henderson, to have additional alternatives. We're mixing truck traffic and residential traffic. It's real mixed use out in West Henderson.
Excellent. All right, let's pivot a little bit right now to Stephanie Street.
Okay.
So Stephanie Street, did a thing on this last summer.
Yeah.
And then everything kind of came to a grinding halt for a few months. From what I understand, supply chain issues are playing a factor. I'm kind of surprised that now it's affecting even construction projects.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of materials, either raw materials or finished materials, have been slow to acquire. So traffic signal parts are particularly difficult. There's a short list of approved materials for traffic signals, and some of those are difficult to get. So when you did that story in the summer, we were probably more than 2 months ahead of schedule. They hoped to be finished in October. The contract completion date is Christmas Eve. Big present there to the commuters. And we were a couple of months ahead of schedule, and then they could not get a traffic signal cabinet and the parts to go with that modified traffic signal. So we moved the barricades out after your story and waited, and we've got all the traffic signal parts now. And now we're getting into the cooler season, and it shortens the pave schedules. We need warm temperatures to pave. So far so good. We've had 80 degrees in November, which is a little bit unusual. So they're continuing to pave, but between the amount of traffic on the street, when they get really busy, we usually go to night work, but then it gets too cold at night. So it's been tough to schedule a pave date. So that's now scheduled about 2 weeks out. Should be fully paved and overlaid. And to compound this, it's where we go from a arterial street to the freeway system, and there's a little different mix design required by NDOT on the freeway system. So Las Vegas Paving now has paving scheduled about 2 weeks out. We should be paved with temporary markings by Thanksgiving. So we're still ahead of schedule, but we'll be a lot closer to the real date by the time it's all, permanently striped and open.
Now, about that brand new traffic light, the double right turn, do you have a date potentially when that's going to be, the switch is going to be turned on? And
Just as soon as that pavement's done and those markings are down, so that both lanes exist.
And I noticed this here around the valley. Why is it that there's no right on red for right turn if it's 2 lanes? Is there any particular theory why that's the case here?
Just mostly driver ability. It depends on the visibility. There are some where the rightmost lane can turn right on red and the second or third can't, and it's more based on visibility and if there's a dedicated right turn lane to turn into versus forcing someone in the middle or third lane to turn right into the oncoming traffic. So that's one of those case by case. It's one of those traffic engineers got an option there.
But like when I go to Arizona, I notice there's all these double right turns, and they don't have no right on red on even on those double rights. But is it just a different philosophy
I think so.
In Nevada versus Arizona?
A little more conservative.
A little more conservative. You may not want to answer this, but is it a lack of faith in our valley drivers?
No, it's that we have so many visitors from other places. We're mixing a lot of talent here, so sometimes it's a challenge.
Gotcha. And once again, when is that project going to be? You think it's going to be all said and done? Is it going to be our?
That should have temporary striping and open to the public by Thanksgiving.
Oh.
And then the permanent markings will be a couple of weeks later after that asphalt cures just a little bit.
Excellent. And then last but not least, getting back to the supply chain issue,
Yeah.
We touched on it with Stephanie. I guess that's been a issue with the city for a while now.
Yes.
In terms of not only for construction, but even obtaining new vehicles.
Yeah, we had last spring an order of Tahoes for the police department were canceled. GM said they weren't going to be able to produce them all, and so they moved out about 6 months. We also have a lot of pickup trucks, and we were not able to place the order we wanted this year for the work truck. There's a short window when they do those work trucks for DOTs and states and counties and cities, and they were not accepting orders this year. They can't get computer chips for some of the trucks. We also have a problem with emission control parts, and so there's a lot of parts that are difficult to come by right now for a variety of vehicles, traffic signals. There's a lot of things.
And does that have any real effect on the city, or is it just you guys just have to hang on to your existing cars longer?
Well, some of the new vehicles, we hold on cars longer. So we had vehicles we were going to replace. We'll just hang on to those vehicles. But the parts are difficult. We had ambulance chassis. The fire trucks were affected. So there's actually an EPA memo that you can delete the emissions on emergency vehicles in the interim because there were so many vehicles that were affected. So we had an ambulance chassis that we could not get parts for, and some utilities maintenance vehicles that were critical to the operation. So
now, is the supply chain shortage? Does it go beyond just that? Does it affect things like sewer line replacements and other aspects of metals and stuff?
It could. It really depends on the supply. So a lot of pipe is available domestically, but if they can't get raw materials, it'll trickle down. But a lot of fittings and the smaller parts, you never know where they're going to come from. And so you might be able to get all the pipeline, but you can't get, some little fitting or something. So.
And what are the suppliers? Obviously you talk to these suppliers. What are they saying to you? How long are they saying that this is going to be an issue? Is it going to go into 2022 or beyond?
Probably into 2022. I think it's improving. I think we're seeing the worst of it right now, and they're saying it may affect Christmas. So if there's something you really, really, really want, you better order it right now. But I want traffic signal parts for Christmas, so I may be disappointed. But all kidding aside, I think it will go into 2022, and between container ships. There's a lot of news about the container ships lined up in Southern California, and there were a lot of factories that were closed a year ago, and it's just trickling down, right? They were closed due to COVID, and depending on what state they were in, they didn't have a way to reopen, and they couldn't supply some of the necessary pieces. So I think we're seeing that all the available inventory is used up, and you really have to scrounge around to find parts sometimes.